Hi everyone, I'm back to read another letter. This time it's from a state mental hospital. It's from Seth to Meryl and it's dated September 8th, 1973. I shall read it and then make some comments afterward. Dear Meryl, as usual, your letter gave me a boost. Of all little whom I correspond, a letter from you often gets me to feel far better than I had been feeling before reaching my mailbox. This last letter was no exception, although I was saddened to hear of your illness and wished that at the more critical times in our lives we would reach out for those who have peopled our lives. My dear friend Michael comes to mind. After not speaking to him for 6 months, a chance phone call found him mourning his mother's death. On to lighter matters. It was pleasing to hear of Roger's developments, but perplexing to find no mention of David. What's up? As for your illness, I'm glad to hear that you're recovered, but from what I can only imagine. More important, you're well now and looking to some exciting travel. As for myself, I just don't know where to begin. Problems with women and love is what it's about, I suppose. For the last couple of weeks, that's all it's been, it seems. I've been seeing, but not screwing, a very Catholic recent divorcee, Marianne. Mildly attractive, but warm and sexy, this wealthy bitch has opened herself sufficiently for me to entwine myself. Oh, Meryl, I do not want someone to share my feelings with, someone who will stir me, or who will let me stir myself as Marianne has to some degree. As a person, she's interesting, loves the arts and gourmet cooking, has spent time in Florence, and lives in a beautifully comfortable home in New Albany. But alas, it's Saturday night, and here I sit for having taken her for granted. Tomorrow, however, she has agreed to come by to help prepare a quiche and to entertain some friends. But enough of this. School has begun again, and with it a new group of students as severely disturbed as my last. You've asked about these people. Do they have a sense of humor? They do. Can they be beautiful? They can. My work is to bring that brightness and beauty to the surface while staying in touch with my own good feelings. The other day, while moving my desk to our new school building, which looks like it has been designed by Mies van der Rohe, a small package of condoms dropped to the floor. A former student, Jimmy, shouted, "A rubber! It's mine!" and practically pounced on it. It tickled me afterward. Plans for January continue to be to get into a doctoral program. You've heard that before, in special education. Once in a program, I might be in a better position to get into a doctoral program in psych. Meanwhile, my serve seems to be working well. In 2 weeks, I'll play in a tournament. Othello will be performed in 3. And so, as I close, my work and friends seem to be the soul and substance of my life. My family, too. Look forward to hearing from you. Love, Seth. I like this letter. I like his honesty. I like that he's, kind of talking a little bit about the woman that he's dating without being too explicit. And then, of course, he brings in the condom, so we all know that he's sexually active. I feel like there is a bit of testosterone running through this letter, seething from it. I think it was fashionable for guys to act like a dick back then. Wasn't anything bad. They weren't really even dicks. I think it was just trendy to act like a dick. And I kind of have a little bit of sense of that coming through this letter. Not a lot, just a little tinge of it, like I'm a dude. Like there's definitely a show of manliness throughout the letter, which is fine. I like it. I like how honest he is. I definitely like that a lot, so I'm not being judgmental. I like the way he writes. I think it is a little bit like, does this guy really talk like this? So it seems like this is his writing voice. And I think from, as far as I could tell, Meryl, even though I have never seen any of her letters, I think she was a pretty good letter writer. She corresponded with a lot of people, and I think that it sounds like she was very descriptive in her letters, obviously, and maybe there was a tendency when people wrote her, they wanted to match that, you know? So I wanted to talk a little bit about the state hospital. So this hospital was, it became a state hospital in the 1800s. I wrote down some notes. In 1869, it was the big piece of land was purchased from a couple, and it was it was for the establishment of the State House of Reform for Juvenile Delinquents. I'm not sure if it ever became a home for juvenile delinquents, but it did become the State Lunatic Asylum. So it was called the Central State Lunatic Asylum from the time that it was purchased and built. And it was built, you should see the pictures, super creepy with like four spires, you know, like those church spires. Uh, like really sort of state hospital looking, you know. Like you can imagine it like way in the distance, like, oh, there's the lunatic asylum, you know, the with the spires and just kind of ominous looking and way back there on this giant piece of land in the back. And it was ran pretty shoddy. I think that as all state hospitals and, you know, at that time period weren't, you know, they didn't really have a knowledge of mental illness, so the treatments were really harsh. They didn't know what schizophrenia was. They had no idea. So the treatments were terrible, like a lot of hydrotherapy where they would throw you in frozen water, um, and shock therapy, and the hypnosis, which was probably fine, but a lot of sedation, you know, treatment with barbiturates and stuff. So in the 60s, they tried to clean up their act, and this is where this guy comes in. And in 1972, they open the Children's Treatment Center, you know, like in the letterhead, and this provides a place for young adults. Around this time, they're trying to modernize. They actually end up taking those spires down shortly before Seth starts working there, and they built like more modern types of buildings, like he mentions, that resemble Mies van der Rohe, who is like a modernist architect. And so they're trying to get away from that old image, it seems like, and, you know, onto a new image of, you know, modern mental health treatment. And shortly after this letter is written, the hospital is privatized and is no longer a state hospital. So there's a little bit of history around the hospital. I know nothing about Seth Hirsch. I tried to search him on Google. I can't find a thing. For the most part, you don't really find too much about people that have died before, you know, 2000, really. And you don't even find their obituary online. I know nothing about him. If you know anything about Seth Hirsch, let me know. Or if you know anything about the Kentucky Central State Lunatic Asylum, or later what it's called, the Central State Hospital. If you were ever there or knew anyone there, I would love to hear stories about that. That would be pretty cool. Let me know what you thought of the letter. I really liked it. I would love to hear your opinions about it. What do you think of Seth? You know, what do you think Seth's and Meryl's relationship was? I mean, Meryl's married. She's married to Dr. Rosenthal, a doctor, and so I mean, she's having, you know, these correspondence with, you know, a variety of men, and the letters get sometimes a little. I only have a few, but there's some sexual connotations in them. Let me know what you think of this letter, and let me know if you write letters yourself. Do you actually write and send them, or type and send them? Or do you just do email like everyone else? So it's kind of a sad art that's gone to the wayside, and I would love to revive it. So let me know what you think of this letter, and let me know if this motivates you to write a letter yourself.